What is up, YouTube? I'm about to share how I lost 30 pounds in just 3 months. And I was able to keep my strength, no calorie tracking, no insane amounts of cardio. And I barely had any food restrictions. Like I was still eating a little bit of ice cream and cheesecake and shit like that. 3 months into the cut, I was still making gains, but I'll get to that in a little bit. You just have to bear with me for a minute. This was me in early January, like very start of January. This was me in late March at the end of my cut. Crazy transformation now that I actually look at it side by side. Like that in 3 months is kind of crazy, but I'm going to get into the how I did it in a minute, but I want to tell you that this is not your average video about cutting. Now, I hear a lot of people talk about like if it fit your macros and calories in, calories out, right? The main problem I have with that is the solution most people end up with is this. They have their protein powders, their carb powders, and random supplements like, oh yeah, this multivitamin is gonna give me enough oomph to get through my day. And the reality is it's just not. Eating 5 slices of bread and drinking a protein shake is not the same as like eating a really nice meal of steak and potatoes and like eggs and rice or whatever, right? Like those two are just not equal. But the main problem I have with diets like these is there are one of two outcomes. And I've personally experienced both. So with malnutrition, it can lead your body to just signal hunger over and over and over again because it's not getting the nutrients it needs. Bubbatron is not feeding his body the nutrients it needs. So he is going to end up in one or two ways. Either he's going to binge eat, and this is the body's way of making sure it gets the nutrients it needs because it's like, oh, I'm hungry, I need food. And you're not giving me real food, you're giving me powders and shit. So its natural reaction is to just eat everything in sight. And honestly, that's fair. My body would probably do that too, and I wouldn't blame it. But if you ignore that signal for too long because your body is signaling for a reason, you shouldn't have to fight against your body's signals. That isn't how all this shit works. You can cut and feel okay too, and I'm about to get into how. But you can also just pass the fuck out if you ignore your nutrition for too long. And this happened to me. I was at work and all of a sudden I just passed out on the floor. I got sent home, slept for like 9 hours after that, and then I just went ham on some food. Like I think it was Whataburger or something. I ate so much food. Anyways, it's actually both now that I think about it, because after you pass out, it's not like you've eaten anything. You can't just keep going on this diet. You actually have to eventually eat real food. Also, there's no need to spam cardio. The main driver of fat loss is a calorie deficit, which is easy if you think about it. You achieve that by doing nothing, actually. The more of nothing that you do, the bigger your deficit is. And I'm talking about eating food. I'm not talking about not working out. I wrote here, if your cutting plan relies on over 30 minutes of hard cardio every day to be successful, it's unsustainable. And that's just kind of a basic fact. Like, if you look at how Sam Sulek's cut, for example, for those who don't know, he did like during prep, his last 2 weeks, he really ramped up his cardio and really tamps down his food. He did not start that all the way 8 weeks out. He started that when he was just, I think maybe it was a month or 2 weeks out or something like that. But you, a recreational lifter, should not be doing 2 hours worth of cardio every single day during a cut. It's just unsustainable. You're not going to be able to do it and you're going to burn yourself out. But I'm going to be honest, fellas. I did not do an insane amount of cardio during my cut. I probably hopped on the treadmill, of course, 5 minutes before lifts every time. Gotta warm up. But after the lift, I probably only hopped on the treadmill maybe once or twice a week for 20 minutes, and it was nothing crazy. And I still was able to lose over 2 pounds of fat per week. That's 10 pounds a month. Enough talking about it. Let's actually talk about how I did it. All right, here's the method. Now, before I get into carb cycling and periodized programming and all that stuff, let me talk about training hard. Training like a dog is what this entire method relies on. If you do not train as hard as humanly possible, there's no point in carb cycling, there's no point in playing with your programming, and there's no point doing refeeds. I'm just gonna get that out of the way before I get into any of this. If you do not get hype and train as hard as possible, I don't know, do 50 push-ups right now or something. But if you really want it, if you really want these results, and if you want the promise of this shit being easy, you have to train as hard as possible. If you want to give up the rest of this, go ahead. Honestly, in my opinion, it does not matter. As long as you train hard, you'll reach your goals. It's as simple as that. So manage your outside variables: sleep, diet, stress management. Stress management is very important too. Do not ignore that, because if you're thinking about, oh, my life sucks, or like just a whole bunch of random negative thoughts in your head that are stressing you out, think about how that's going to affect your ability to really lift the weights. It's going to be worse, obviously. So manage your stress as best as possible. Get enough sleep, eat right, eat your veggies and fruits. And I'm about to get into that, but I just can't stress it enough. Train as hard as fucking possible, you know? You'll be set. But let me actually get into carb cycling now. So I recommend around 200 to 400 calories above your average intake on training days around the time of when you train, just because that's when you need the most energy. And just eat less carbs on rest days. You can even, if you want, just eat more protein and less carbs, because you don't need all the extra energy. And yeah, you might say, oh, you're just gonna deplete faster, but this method on a 4-day split creates a 1,000 calorie deficit a week. If you add 400, I'm not gonna break down the math. You can do it yourself, but it comes out to around 1 pound of fat loss a month for free. And over the course of 3 months, it compounds, basically. It's pretty fucking awesome. And it feels like you just get it for free because you weren't going to use the energy anyways. So expend all of your energy on a training day and just chill on a rest day. That's how things are supposed to go anyways. But this method lets you train harder. It gets you to your goals faster during a cut. I recommend getting most of your stuff from clean, digestible sources like rice, oats, and especially nutrient-dense carb sources like potatoes or berries. Do not sleep on the berries. They make you feel fucking amazing. But moving on to periodizing your programming. And for those of you who don't know, it's basically like spacing out your programmed volume and intensity in an intentional way. So your first block, your volume is going to be really high. It's going to taper down and down, while your intensity is going to start very low and it's going to taper up and up. So this block would be kind of like a work capacity, and then this one's like a hypertrophy, and this one's like a strength. So this is like the endurance eagle, the gains gorilla, and then the 1 rep rhino or whatever. I'll like edit some photos in for you to understand what I'm saying, but the basic plan kind of looks like this. Your first month, your first 4 weeks of training, it's going to be around 12 to 15 reps for like an upper lift, like a bench press or overhead press. And then your lowers, like a squat or a deadlift, is going to be around 8 to 9 reps of 3 sets. And then for uppers, 4 sets. And then after some time goes by, after you put in the hard work, after you get hype, after you train hard and eat clean, you can really start pushing your intensity in your strength block. Because if you were training hard at the start and the amount of work you were doing is going down and your intensity is going up, you should be holding on to a lot of that go muscle, that intensity. You should be able to hold on to a lot of intensity throughout your cut, which means after your cut, it only takes around a week's worth of eating, giving yourself enough food. Like, it only takes a week of maintenance for you to get back up to where you were during your bulk, which is pretty awesome. Like imagine cutting and then not losing any strength. This is how you do it right here. You keep your intensity high, and then when you're done cutting, reintroduce calories, and your strength is damn near the exact same, minus like the size difference, because it's easier to bench off soft, cushy pecs instead of just nothing there. But for my last trick, refeeds are honestly underrated because you get to eat a lot of food, you get to train hard, and it actually restarts your metabolism to a certain degree. I wouldn't go too hard on that, but it does it to a certain degree. Yeah, a basic refeed is you just eat a lot of these dry carbs and you drink a lot of water to transfer those carbs into glycogen to put them in your muscles so you can lift more. That's a refeed. That's how it works. Like The Rock here, that's exactly what he's doing. I wouldn't be surprised if he had a gallon water bottle sitting right next to him, honestly. The best way to figure out when you actually do need a refeed is going to be when you feel low energy. Like it feels, you get out of breath when you're just walking around and you feel sluggish all the time. You can barely think. You're very brain fogged and you look flat, like you barely even lift. That's when you know when all of those things are happening. That's when you need a refeed, not 2 weeks into the cut. Oh man, I need to go to Cold Stone. I need to replenish my carb stores. You don't need a refeed that early. I probably didn't do a refeed until like 1.5 months, 2 months into my cut. And then I probably only had like 1 to 3 refeeds within 3 months. Like it's not something you need to go overboard on, but there is a time and a place, and it's a complete game changer when you do it right. You feel like a Super Saiyan. I swear to God. But one more thing that I had to say about carb cycling and refeeds and all that is you should experiment with fasting. I saw some success. Your energy levels kind of feel like they get balanced out after you're done fasting. So your metabolism basically gets given a break for a day. And then when you actually reintroduce food and calories and everything like that, your body kind of replenishes itself and it feels more energized off of less food because it was used to being depleted before. I don't know if that's bro science, but in my experience, it worked every time. It might be worth trying, but I didn't want to include it here because there's nothing really backing it. But before we end off, I want to give you some random tips like mindset and stuff. Checking your pump a lot is a game changer. Like I probably checked my pump after every lift during my cut, just because it's a lot easier to make the right decision because you're seeing your progress from 200 pounds to 170 pounds. You're seeing that shift every single day. You're seeing that needle move closer and closer. So checking your pump as often as possible just helps you kind of make the decisions you know you need to, just because you can see the progress. Like if you feel like you don't want to train as hard or you need more slack in some areas, if you just want to miss a day or whatever, even though you could go do it, checking your pump could be the difference between missing a workout and not missing a workout, plain and simple. So check your pumps as often as possible because they will motivate the fuck out of you. I promise you that. High volume foods. Another underrated game changer. I guess it's not underrated. A lot of people say this, but if I give you the example of like a rice cake versus a tablespoon of peanut butter, high volume foods just fill you up more, make you less hungry, and just makes it easier to get through the cut because cutting is honestly mostly a mindset thing if you really think about it. Big carbs before, big protein after. What do I mean by that? So before your workout, let's just say this random blob is workout, this little W. You want to eat, or at least this is what I did. I ate like probably 80% of my carbs before the workout and then 20% after. But I ate 80% of my protein for the day after the workout. And for those of you who don't know, protein is way more filling than carbs. You eat 1 4-ounce chicken breast versus like a Pop-Tart. You tell me which one fills you up more. So this was a trick in just staying satiated throughout the day because I like to work out around 2 o'clock. And when you're done at 4, you're like ravenous because you're during a cut, if you can eat like a bowl of rice, 150 calories, and a bunch of ground beef, like 300 calories, 400 calories for a meal, and you're good at like 4 o'clock. Let's say you have another meal at like 8, another 400 calories, you're going to be pretty full. And if you really need that sweet treat, that's what I would save your extra 20% of carbs. Because if you're eating 60% of your macronutrients are carbs, that's kind of enough room to fit in probably around 400 calories worth of like junk carbs. So ice cream, whatever the fuck you want to eat. As long as you make room for it, you can go ahead and eat it, as long as you kind of like within reason, of course. I'm not saying go eat 15 pancakes like this guy over here, but you know what I mean. And if you had any value from this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next one.